Okay, so what we have here are two ignition switches. This particular switch right here that we're dealing with is all from a Lamborghini Countach. This switch right here is one of a variety of different switches of very, very similar design, fitting a Fiat 128, Fiat X19, and other similar front-wheel drive vehicles. We brought this particular one in to help us understand what we needed to repair the Countach switch. So the primary problem with the Countach switch was that occasionally when the key was in the lock cylinder, okay, this is the lock tumbler with the pins in it that goes into this cylinder right here. So when the key was in the lock cylinder in the tumbler, occasionally it would stick in the starter crank position. Oh my God. Talk about shredded starter motor. So they sent it to us. It had already been at a locksmith. The locksmith gave up. So here's what we discovered. In the lock cylinder, which I have tape over, we have tape over all of the spring-loaded pins that go in there that are activated by the lumps on the key here. There's an additional little item right here. We call this the hammer. It slides down in there, and its curved surface is even with the top of the lock cylinder. When the key goes in, it lifts that hammer. When the key comes out, it drops the hammer. And that's good because the switch has several functions. One of the functions is to activate this dog here, locking dog, which is attached to this pull pin right here, and slides in and out of the housing assembly here and cause the lock cylinder to either lock the steering column or unlock it. In the case of most Fiat switches, the key goes in, the little mechanism senses that the key is in, and it locks this steering column locking dog up in the throat of the mechanism and does not release it to re-engage the steering column until the key is physically pulled out. This little J thing right here goes back into the lock cylinder, and a variety of other Rube Goldberg components touch and move each other such that it allows the lock dog to spring into locking action only after the key is retracted. In addition, this little J thing pushes on this little plastic thing right here, which goes up into the lock cylinder's electrical switch, and on this two-wire contact right here, electrically tells you whether the key is in or out. So, and then finally, a rotating ring right here that has a plunger on it with a spring in the back that allows you to not grind the starter bendix into dust, because when you turn the ignition key to the spring-loaded start position, it allows you to come back but not re-engage the starter until this mechanism has rotated, the plunger has come down. In other words, basically, we call it the double detent. It will not allow you to restart the car unless you turn the key off completely, reset this rotating device right here, pull the plunger out of a lock collar that's on a ramp on the side of this thing here, and cause everything else to operate properly. So this is a difficult explanation because there's so much involved. However, when it arrived here, this pin was missing. We didn't even know what it looked like. We didn't even know it was supposed to be there, but there was this spring right here down in the bore. That spring allowed us to determine that there must be something missing. Certainly, we ground down a piece of steel to do that. We tested it. It works. It now has the double detent lockout. The really hard one to find was this little piece of right here that we handmade using guess of how it should operate. Where'd I drop it?
It's underneath the sheath of the wiring.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry I dropped it. All right, that's so typical. Well, and now you can see it in profile as well. So this black piece of Delron we hand cut for function because we'd never seen one before. We had no idea how it operated. All right, so this is a long video. Basically, we're going to go ahead and show part 2 after the thing is entirely assembled and show that our homemade pieces actually that were missing make this switch function exact as it should. So get ready for step 2.